Okay, listen up. This is First 5, where I look for games that respect your time and you can enjoy over a week or two. I played a game for 5 hours, and I'm going to tell you if those were 5 hours well spent. Today, we're prison breaking in the name of vengeance in A Way Out. A Way Out is a rare breed of game that can be described as truly cinematic. If there's one thing to take away from this game, it's that its innovation, the whole split-screen simultaneous storytelling thing, works. It's smart, gorgeous, and the regular shifting of frames to highlight the action you should pay attention to is surprisingly intuitive and seamless. The only times the format falters is when each player is in a separate conversation at the same time. At these points, the game does its best to accommodate, but it's just beyond the human mind to pay total attention to both at once. Luckily, these moments are exceedingly rare and never came up during a critical story beat, so they're barely even worth mentioning. The story itself has its ups and downs. Despite A Way Out's premise as a prison-breaking story, escape is literally just the first act. But the game is also one of my favorite kinds of stories, one that isn't afraid to show some of the little moments alongside the big, jaw-dropping ones. It isn't perfect in its execution, though. Leo and Vincent's adventure would have ended barely outside of prison if not for copious plot armor. Their improvised plans don't always make a whole lot of sense, but they look like geniuses compared to almost any of their opposition. From prison security guards to mercenary hitmen to even the main antagonist, nobody seems particularly competent at their actual job. But for every moment that left me scratching my head in disbelief, there was another emotionally resonant beat that made me forgive any logic transgressions the game may have committed. There's a lot of heart behind Leo and Vincent's quest for vengeance, and their adventures involve a lot of genuinely riveting trials that make for some jaw-dropping moments. A Way Out doesn't land every emotional punch as satisfyingly as it would like to, however. In particular, I felt like Vincent's wife was literally one note in how all of her speaking lines were mostly variations on the same single phrase over and over again, so the game could dance around the two characters having an actual meaningful discussion that would have revealed endgame plot spoilers early. And those spoilers themselves were a little underwhelming and cliché. Mechanically, this game is stellar, though perhaps paradoxically, the moments during its conclusion to blast into a full-on guns-blazing action game are some of the weakest. The game has its share of shootouts and car chases, but these segments are just kind of bland and functional instead of thrilling. A Way Out is at its best when it focuses on telling its story. And when it does so, it's fantastic. All mechanics, including the aforementioned shooting and driving, exist entirely to serve the narrative, only come up when they're needed, and never stick around long enough to outlast their welcome. In particular, the way the game handles cooperative actions is phenomenal. There's everything from synchronized QuickTime events that force both players to move as one, to segments where you basically baton pass a MacGuffin back and forth to pass obstacles. There are also several moments throughout the game, like this gorgeously choreographed fight scene that ping-pong control back and forth between the players. Like, this is just a QuickTime event. That's all it is. But it's just so seamless and well executed that it reminds me that sometimes when you do a QuickTime event well, they don't have to be the universally reviled, shallow mechanic everyone likes to label them as. Remember the Resident Evil 4 knife fight? Remember how it's inexplicably almost the only QuickTime event broader gaming culture venerates while thumbing their nose at practically anything else? This should go up there with that knife fight. During the game's slower moments, there's also an overwhelming tide of minigames. They're everywhere. It's kind of weird and unexpected, and none of the minigames will distract you for more than a few minutes. They didn't do a whole lot for me personally, but I suppose in a game that's primarily narrative-focused, they're an addition that will probably be welcomed by those looking for more gameplay than your standard point-and-click adventure or walking simulator provides. And with all of that, it's time for a verdict. I've been waffling back and forth a lot on what A Way Out does and doesn't do right, but ultimately, this game is absolutely worth the purchase. It stumbles at times, but it sticks the landing more often than not, and if nothing else, it's worth checking out just for the novelty of its presentation. The fact that you only have to purchase one copy to play with a friend also definitely helps. That said, I'm skeptical that this game is going to have a lot of replayability. You would think that by having two unique characters, A Way Out would warrant a second playthrough where you swap who you play, but in most given situations, either player can fulfill either role needed to complete a given scene, and you're rarely far from each other. There are a few different points where what you're doing is wildly different, but more often, you're doing the same thing in slightly different places, or exploring the same place together Telltale style. A Way Out is ultimately a very strange game. It's a game that is 100% narrative focused, and yet the part about it that impresses most is its mechanical design. The story is a decent one, but it isn't truly great, and I think it's telling that despite the fact the game has multiple endings, I don't feel compelled to go back and see the other one. But there is so much here to appreciate. The myriad ways cooperation is utilized in the game, the seamless way the split screen element is incorporated and enhances the storytelling, and the way the game transitions between players when you're taking turns instead of working simultaneously are all cool twists on how we tell stories in video games. And I hope that someone, maybe even Joseph Fares and his team themselves, take these ideas and run with them to push this even further. Hey, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of First 5. If you did, like, subscribe, or best of all, share this video around wherever you can. A Way Out by Hazelight Studios is available on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. I'll see you all next week.